In Unit 7, we'll be continuing with conflicts of interests and ethics in financial markets. In Lecture 1, we'll deal with the Code of Conduct of the SAIFM, and we'll deal with skill, care, and diligence. Now we talk about skill, care, and diligence. So there's a standard of care, right, that any person would expect if you are dealing with your own affairs. So that is the minimum standard of care that you should deal with your client's affairs. Prompt and timely execution. So when you are asked to act in accordance with instructions, you need to do it in the promptest and most timely manner, unless the client says on a particular day. So because the financial markets are so volatile, when a client requests you to do something in their portfolio, it needs to be done timeously to make sure that the trade had the intention that the client wanted. Then we look at twisting. This is the practice of shifting profits and losses between portfolios to report unrealistic profits. So when you shift your profits around, you kind of average it out so you can report that on the whole your portfolio is doing very well, even if you have made losses for a lot of clients. It may not be intentional, but at the end of the day, your bonuses or sometimes even your salaries are a reflection on your portfolio. So you may unintentionally shift profits and losses around. We then talk about the standards of advice. So you must exercise diligence and thoroughness when you offer advice to others. These are people that believe that you know the market better than them. And you must also understand that they may act on this advice. So you must put in the effort to avoid a misrepresentation when making an advice. Financial resources. You always need to make sure that you maintain adequate resources to meet your commitments and to also withstand any risk that your profession is subject to. Best execution. So you need to take reasonable steps to find and deal with the terms that are best available for your client. When you talk about suitability, this is a big aspect of care and diligence. So the market participant must get information from the client. Once they have the information, they can then look at the circumstances and the objectives of the client and see what is suitable for them. And the market participant can think to themselves, what is reasonable? If they would like to invest for retirement, you obviously don't want something very high risk. You want something lower risk with a guaranteed yield. So when you consider these matters, you must take into account the needs and circumstances of the client, the characteristics of the investment, as well as the characteristics of the portfolio and the potential risks of loss. You need to then use reasonable judgment to determine if this is acceptable for your client. You must also distinguish between fact and opinion. So your opinion might be different to the fact, and you need to present both to the client so that they can make a decision in the end. Now, when dealing with care and diligence, we look at full and accurate information, and there are 6 points that we have to deal with here. So we talk about access to funds and availability of fund managers. So you need to tell your client in advance if their funds will be tied up for a certain period of time, and the client needs to understand the implications of having such an illiquid investment. So if they cannot touch their money for a year, for 10 months or whatever it is, they need to understand the implications of that. And also, if they still wish to access the funds, what penalty do they have to pay in order to access the funds early? Then secondly, time to consider. So you give your client all the potential risks and rewards, and you expect them to make a decision with all the information that you have given them. You cannot expect them to make a decision under high pressure. This is deemed unethical. So you cannot turn around to a client and say, this deal is for today only. No. You need to present them with all of the information that you have and allow them time to make a decision. Statements and forecasts. If you are providing a statement or forecast, it needs to be objective and truthful. Where did you get your forecast from? Is it based on past information? If so, you need to say that. And you also need to ensure that it conveys all the material facts that will affect the performance of the investment. And you also need to make sure that you have distinguished between fact and opinion. When you talk about risk disclosure, you need to, as accurately as possible, inform the client of all the risks involved. So generally, when dealing on the JSE, clients sign a standardized risk disclosure document before entering into any contract. So this is basically an acknowledgement that the client is aware of the risks in that specific trading medium, and they are also aware of their rights and obligations. Which leads on to the next point: explanation of rights, obligation, and cost. You must inform the client of all their rights, obligations, and costs. You must also supply them with a document containing the details of all the expenditures and what will be charged to the client's account, and also the circumstances under which these costs will be incurred. Finally, when dealing with full and accurate information, we look at complete and truthful accounting. As a matter of course, you need to supply the following things to the client. Where are their funds? The type and frequency of the statements that are provided. Details of charges that are incurred against the client's account. The financial performance of the market participants, and the client must know exactly who they are dealing with when they are engaged in futures. The name of the firm of auditors responsible for auditing the accounts of the market participants, and also how the client may obtain interim information, so a call center or something. You must, on request, provide additional information to the client with regards to their account and how the profits and losses were incurred or realized.